Everybody, welcome to Built in Public, real stories from the people shaping the builder economy. I'm your host, Adam Perlis, founder of B150. And on this show, we talk to creators building in the open. And we're speaking to vibe coders, designers, filmmakers, marketers, musicians, and more. Whether it's a cool tool, a product, a piece of art, these are builders leveraging Gen AI to turn ideas into real things you use, love, and talk about. And today I'm joined by Amy Lima. She's a product designer and founder of the community Diversify Design. She's had a really impressive career working at places like Duolingo, Amazon, Pinterest. And today we're going to be speaking to her about her journey into vibe coding, a really cool side project that she's been working on called Lima Bean OS, and also the future of what design looks like. So this is Built in Public. Let's get into it. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much, friend. Wow, what an introduction. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to chat about this.
Oh, man, I am too. I mean, you are a very impressive designer. You've had a really amazing career. Would you mind telling the audience just a little bit about you to kind of frame things up, and then we can kind of get into some of the cool things you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have had kind of a whirlwind uh, career so far. I actually started my career in the music industry, just on the topic of learning to fly the plane when it's in the air. So in a previous life, I was working in the live event space in the music industry, managing and producing concerts, festivals, music events, and working with artists, managing them directly. I've always been an internet kid, digitally native, very online. Transitioned to design, kind of taking a big bet on myself of okay, I love this space. I feel so connected to it. I just want to dive in. And I've been very, very blessed in my career so far. My first design job full time was as Pinterest's first ever design apprentice. That opportunity changed my life. From there, I went on to work at a very cool startup under Amazon Music. That was a live radio app. So like a really cool, bold, vibrant, big swing under this behemoth umbrella of Amazon. Really cool, unique opportunity there. And then, was so lucky to join the brilliant team at Duolingo as well, which was also, just a life-changing experience, through and through. So yeah, I guess the through line through all of my work has been, just this insatiable curiosity. I know that may sound like a little cliche, but it's the more I learn, the more I want to learn more. And my curiosity is just so expansive. And I always want to just sink my teeth into so many different things, which is why I love design so much. And especially this era, of there's an endless amount of things to learn. And especially with the new tools that are out today, it's just never been a more fun time to be in this space. So I just feel lucky to be part of the ride.
Yeah, wow. I mean, first of all, amazing career so far. And it's so cool to hear actually some more details about that journey. Now, you'd mentioned how the tools are changing, things have been evolving quite a bit in the past 6 months, maybe a year now. I'm curious to hear, before we dive directly into this amazing project that you started to work on, kind of what led you to this moment where you were like, I need to start learning these new tools, right? Because if I don't, it's likely table stakes and I need to move fast. So walk me through that journey, how you learned about it first, and then were the first steps you started to take to kind of get into this?
Wow, that's a really great question. I think from a very practical um, lens, how I first kind of, what got the creative wheels turning was, I mean, again, being very online, being very tapped into just social conversation, still very active, on Twitter, for example, where you see these very high agency, high operators, playing around with these tools, in their nascency. So it's funny because it's so easy to be in your own little echo chamber and to lose touch with what the greater landscape of like the industry or just like the population is doing. And my, I guess, approach in my career so far has been like biasing for like that top like 1% of designers that are kind of like at the forefront of that stuff, and trying to like inch my way, like climbing the boulder wall, like closer to like what they're doing. So I've been seeing this happening, folks vibe coding or just like playing around with these tools, diving in headfirst for, yeah, like the better part of a year now. Um, and just by nature, right? Like by sheer definition of like the technology, these things evolve by the day. So however good it is today, it's going to be so much better literally tomorrow or by the next release, even if that's like a few days later, right? So knowing that these things move at the speed of light, I've felt this like overwhelming or like steadily building anxiety of like, okay, damn, like if you the best time to start is yesterday, the second best time is right now, so like
Yeah.
that sort of mentality of like, damn, like I feel like I'm late, but kind of in a way that I feel like people in maybe like the early 2000s felt about buying like Amazon stock or something, of like, damn, missed the boat. And it's like, man, you have no idea. Like you can still get on this train and like be part of like shaping this. So I guess like I'm just seeing that, and like I see where it's going. And to your point, like having not even foresight, it's not even like an intuition, but it's kind of when you even see this technology secondhand, even if you're not engaging with it yourself, like actively building yourself, it's impossible not to connect the dots and see how this is going to be the future of how we build, how we create. How could it not be, and it's not even, skipping steps or, changing, the fabric, the creative DNA of the process. It's just elevating it in so many ways to a more efficient, fast, material place. So I think being able to like connect those dots and see where it's going to be tomorrow is what inspired me to like, okay, let me just dive in. This is all really intimidating to me. Like I'm very digitally native, but also like bad at computers actually, where I'm like, damn, like I turn into a boomer as soon as like I'm in like a coding environment, and like I'm super scared and nervous, but I'm like, okay, let me just try to sink my teeth in, and yeah, trial by fire, and I do think that
Yeah.
if you don't, at least expose yourself to these tools, to like this, this new landscape now, I think it's going to be a very painful, um, like, experience in the not so distant future of getting kind of like left behind in that process, because I do think it's going to be a table stakes expectation that you're at least comfortable, in these new environments, in these new platforms, and integrating them into your workflow.
Yeah. Wow. I just love how you totally captured, I think, the anxiety that a lot of designers are feeling right now. And this kind of like a little bit of like FOMO, but not like, I don't know if it's really FOMO is like the right way to put it. Like there's just like a lot of people who are a little bit afraid to dip their toe in the water. And it feels like you have now fully jumped in, and like you're like, okay, like I'm gonna jump in the pool and figure this thing out.
Yeah.
And so
More like cliff dive into the ocean is what
yeah,
it
yeah,
felt
yeah.
like. It's
Cliff
like,
dive
okay,
is
like, yeah,
better.
I thought I
Yeah,
was going
yeah,
in with my little floaties, but I'm like, wow, like you're just in the deep blue immediately. There's
yeah.
no, you're just in it.
Totally. Well, I think we should show people what you created, because we don't want to belabor the point here. You worked on a really cool little side project for yourself. Do you want to share your screen and kind of like walk us through what you built, and like what was the impetus for like this idea, and yeah, and then maybe how you executed it too? Like what tools did you use, and like what were some of the things that were hiccups along the way that were hard to get past, but you powered through? Walk us through it.
Absolutely. Oh, this is so exciting. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Gonna do a little hard refresh.
Is
So we
that is
get
this you, by the way? Is that
That's
you in the loading
me.
screen? Who is
That's
squeezing your cheeks?
it's my older cousin, Michelle. It's so sweet. So that's actually, I'll get into kind of like the origin story around like Lima Bean in general, and like, yeah,
Sure.
this project really is like such like a personal, like manifestation of like, yeah, just like my not only professional journey but also personal one. But we have a little sound effect going in. Classic.
It's
So
so
good.
good. It gets
And
me every time.
you
It gets
feel
me every
it
time. It's so
you
good.
feel it in your bones, and that's what's like so amazing. So
I
yeah,
hope the audience could hear that. If you couldn't, it's like the old, like, I guess Windows 95 maybe,
the startup sound.
like startup sound, and it's just so iconic.
So
But
good.
I'll try
I,
to find it and add it if you couldn't hear it.
yeah,
But
I
yeah,
feel like
please.
we need to hear that in like club remixes or something. Like that's
It's so
missed
deserves.
opportunity.
Yeah, really. Well, AI could probably help you make
Oh
that.
yeah. So good. So yeah, so here's like we enter my own little OS, obviously very like Windows 95 coded. We have like a fun little like pop up here to so everything in the experience is very like intentionally, nostalgic, vintage, and true to form, kind of like unpolished, right? Like how it was back then. I mean, yeah, maybe we can go through some experiences. Every icon on the desktop opens up to like a new mini browser experience. So I have Spill the Beans, which is a fun little trivia about me. People can, guess just little fun facts about myself. Oh, we know this one from the conversation already. I started my career in the music industry. So that's really fun. Yeah, vintage like clicking sounds throughout. I have these affirmations that I paired with tarot cards that are really sweet. Just, a little treat for whoever's visiting. Work Explorer is really fun. This is like an old like Internet Explorer browser, and like every tab is like an homage to like a different era of the internet that I grew up with and loved. So my little MySpace page with my design besties, it redirects to their portfolios when you click on the top 8. My time at Pinterest, immortalized as a Zanga blog with like, yeah, just hilarious entries. So funny. AMP, a fun little like sparkly MySpace background. It's
So
hideous and
good.
perfect. It's so good. Duolingo
Yeah.
was inspired by GeoCities. So
Yes.
also just like so silly and fun. And yeah, we have another Zanga page here with like this hilarious little like graphic. So cute. I embedded yeah, with like my music background, this fun little media player.
Oh my God. I love this. This is so Winamp. I love it.
Yeah, with like
It's like a
some of
Winamp
my
skin.
it's so good. Yeah. And like there's little like side quests even like embedded throughout the experience. So like this links out to a Spotify playlist, where I have like kind of the soundtrack to my life. So these are like songs to just like, yeah, guide you through the experience intentionally, like these specific ones, but also like you can open up a new tab to go with that. Post Secret is really fun. Post Secret is one of my favorite corners of, yeah, again, like the early internet. Strangers would submit, yeah, secret, yeah, just kind of like these deep secrets and personal stories anonymously with like these really beautiful, like collaged postcards. And they were, yeah, displayed in books and on blogs. And yeah, we have a little gallery of these anonymous secrets here once people submit them. And case studies, which this little pop up opens up to, is a more traditional view of my work. I embedded a little like Figma slides
Yeah.
presentation, which was interesting. So like one of like the more interesting parts
Yeah.
of this experience was, yeah, you could change like the background here. So fun. And baby bean. But one of the more interesting parts of this experience was like knowing where to draw the line with like the metaphor, right? That I was this world, this nostalgic world that I was building. So, in Work Explorer, it's like, okay, you can like this does walk you through my time at Pinterest in like this
Yeah.
hilarious, like, tongue-in-cheek sort of way, or like, okay, Duolingo GeoCities. It's like it's it is what it is. And like
Right.
it's true to form, but do you know that it like I can actually design beyond like being like ironic, silly beans. So it's like, okay, maybe
Yeah.
I should give people like an actual like, okay, capital D designer view of like my work as well. But like
Right.
that was an interesting moment, for example, in this project of like, okay, like where do I sort of draw the line and where do I bring in like more modern form factors, paradigms, metaphors versus like, no, this is just like what it was and what it should be. Yeah, my little like
Yeah.
away messages. So iconic.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think, this really captured my attention because, look, it was so creative. It obviously has this, I think people really appreciate generally vintage kind of things. Obviously, that's been a trend for some years. And, but I think it was done in such a unique and creative way where it was like, hey, I'm going to leverage these like new tools to be able to build an old thing and like do it in a way that kind of, yeah, helps people learn about me and shows my creativity while also not distracting away from like my actual work, which of course I'm a product designer. Walk me through the process of like building this. Obviously, this is actually a website, right? I assume this is built on something. Walk us through what tools you use to actually build it. What are the coding languages that it ended up using to build it? What were the hosting platforms you built it on? There were some things you probably needed to store here in a database as well. So like walk us through the process of building this, all the but give us the good and the bad and the ugly. We want to know like what
Totally.
challenges did you face?
Man, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, like, the inspiration for this, I would be remiss to not share um Rio's work. Rio.
And by the way, we can only see, I think, your screen right now, so you might need to show another
Yes.
tab.
Yes. Wanted to switch to another tab, was just like opening it up right now. So Rio, who is the head of design at Cursor, I mean, you can obviously see the inspiration here. So he built this, I mean, it's just like an incredible um digital world. Like his iPod, for example, is like, I mean, just look at this thing.
Yeah.
Incredible. So like literally like the head of design like of Cursor, right, who like is pioneering this technology and is like the tool that I used to build my portfolio website. So I looked at Rio's OS, yeah, RIOS right here.
Yeah.
And I kind of see this as like, okay, this is like the most polished, refined, like uh kind of like exemplary manifestation of like what this technology can do, and just like this metaphor of like these vintage aesthetics in this like
Mm.
modern world with like what the modern technology can do, and how do I kind of like add my own personal spin to it. So my approach was like, how do I make it as unserious as possible? Like you see this like polished,
Hmm.
gorgeous um take on this. And I was like, how do I make mine like true to me, which is kind of like,
Hmm.
I just want a love letter to like the internet that I fell in love with, right? And like especially
Right.
in like this moment in not only like, my personal life, but also the industry where I think, designers are, you know, have like Herculean expectations put upon them, especially with the industry changing so much. And this conversation is part of it, right? It's like, okay, like there's these new tools, these new technologies that you need to learn and master, and now you need to be a vibe coder, and like it's just kind of endless. So I kind of just wanted something that stood on its own for me first and foremost, of like, hey, like these were our humble beginnings. Like I'm just like an internet kid at
Yeah.
heart, trying to like honor that like inner child, literally like baby bean over here. Which is like kind of cheesy, but really like, this was like such a thoughtful creation process. And,
Hmm.
I might not, some hiring manager or some design teams might not consider me like, a good designer based on like their paradigms and their you know, uh, definitions of like what that is, but like what does make a good designer and what does make good design? Again, like, these unrefined patterns that, we learned to navigate the internet with in the first place, like elicit a visceral reaction in people, like that startup sound, the clicks,
Right.
like just even like this background that's like so iconic and that you remember on like the soul level. And that's been the
Yeah.
most interesting thing with this project, is getting people's reaction of like
Yep.
how deeply they connect with it and how it elicits such a strong feeling. And for
Yeah.
me, that's something I'm so proud of. And at the end of the day, like, I mean, we exist in a society, and like I increase shareholder value, like as a job, and like I understand that, and there's like a place for that. But more than anything, I
Yeah.
just want to make people feel something through my work, even
Yeah.
in those like corporate structures, right? So like this was a way to kind of like reconnect with
Yeah.
that. So yeah, kind of like this is kind of like a commentary on
Yeah.
like just like our wider landscape of like where it stands today, and like designers finding their place in it. So it's kind of like a, you know, a little statement piece in and of itself. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like I did lean in to these tools and like fumbled my way through it to try to learn how to create this on my own. Again, using like Ryo's uh, OS as like an inspirational starting point. So
Sure.
this was to
So
answer your question in terms of like tools and stuff, right? The
yeah.
stack. So first and foremost, like this was built entirely in Cursor. I'd like to say like in conversation with Cursor, right? Like I was mainly using the chat function, chatting with like the agent and kind of going back and forth. I was also in Figma for like certain experiences to like help orient the UI prompting.
Yep.
So, you know, I wasn't like I didn't abandon Figma or like the actual pixels in the process. A lot like everything I had like a very heavy hand and influence in. Um, yeah, it's built with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I was really intentional and was was encouraged by a dear friend of mine, Maxim, to start like simple, foundational, no discrepancies for as long as you can, and just
Yep.
like build something on first principles before you add more complex layers to it. So,
Yep.
and that's how you think of like design, right? So it's kind of like the same thing. So like in coding, it's the same of like, okay, keep it as simple as possible for as long as you can. And once you have to add more layers of complexity to it, cool, but only like when necessary. So there are no other languages there. So it's the code is simple, the code is clean. And yeah, I did have to learn how to, you know, create like a pod project directory, you know, and
Yeah.
have some of these like assets stored in them. So like, you know, in my tunes, LOL, the songs, I actually, because you can't stream, I learned, you know, I didn't even know how
Right.
these things worked. Like you can't stream a Spotify playlist or a Spotify song on, you know, a personal site. So I actually bought
Right.
all of these songs on iTunes, which like was a throwback. So yeah,
iTunes.
I was like committed to like the, you know, nostalgic process through and
Yeah.
through. I was like, okay, like I got to be about it. Let me like reawaken those muscle memory has to
Right.
be somewhere. Like I used to do that, right? So I bought these songs on iTunes, put the MP3 files into a folder in the project
Okay.
folder, and you know would just communicate with Cursor like, hey, here are the songs, this is where they are, embed them into my little music player, for example. Same with the tarot card affirmations, right? These are
Right.
images that I exported from Figma. So I was like, cool, pair these image titles with their names with these affirmations specifically. So because all
Yep.
of the tarot cards specifically correspond to the affirmations, like it isn't random. That was like a really intentional detail as well. Other moments like in this little photo book, the Polaroid frame is something that I exported. It's an image I exported. So I was like, okay, like make sure you use this photo book, this Polaroid frame, and place the photos
Yeah.
within them. But little moments that were, you know, again, like I say, like in conversation with Cursor, because like, I mean, even like this photo book, for example, the little change in placement,
Yeah.
like the little jump that like the photos
Yeah.
do, kind of like they're like being like tossed onto like a table. That was just Cursor that did that. So that
Oh,
was kind of
cool.
like an accident. And I was like, wait, that's kind of fire. Like I want
Happy
to keep
accident.
that.
Yeah.
Right. So I like refined it, right? Like, you know, a little bit with like the easing and the directionality of like, okay, I don't want it to like overlay on top of the buttons. Like we need to like clean this up a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. But that was like a nice moment of like, oh, okay, like I wouldn't have thought of that maybe as quickly, but that was like a
Right.
fun little you know, serendipitous moment. Also, similarly with these affirmations, it started with just like the affirmations themselves, right? But eventually I was like, okay, like I know I want some sort of like imagery here. Like I don't want it to be like just text. How do I make this more delightful? So I asked Cursor to like have some sort of placeholder image container, like in this little like mini browser, like as a starting point. And the
Mm-hmm.
container was kind of like, you know, this card shape. And I think it
Mm.
maybe even it didn't have like draw a card as like a CTA, but like something similar where I was like, whoa, what if it was tarot cards?
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool metaphor. I mean, kind of a stretch, but like there's something to it, right? Of like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe 5 of cups can, you know, correspond with like this affirmation. And that's when I like went to Claude to have that conversation. I was like, Claude, help me out here. Like, I have these affirmations that are like psychologically backed to be like, the most like, powerful affirmations you could tell yourself. What are the Arcana tarot cards that can correspond with these affirmations specifically? So again, it really was this like
Nice.
generative conversation that was happening that, was just so fun. So like when I think of like, obviously it's like a different kind of design process, but it was definitely a design process through and through. Like this wasn't something that
Right.
I like delegated on autopilot to this like, third party, mysterious like AI agent. Like I was in the driver's seat for the creative direction and implementation of everything. But there were some moments where it was an exchange, where like
Yeah.
Cursor's first output, of like the placeholder UI or UX, for example, actually like gave me an idea, like sparked like the
Right. A
evolution
new
of where
idea.
I landed. Exactly. And I think that was one of the cooler parts of this project
Yeah.
and, just this process as well.
And coming into this, I mean, had you ever done any coding ever? Like, do you know anything about it?
I mean, only when I was coding my MySpace page in my
Ah,
youth, and I was pretty
yeah.
fire back then. I will not lie.
Oh
Like my
yeah.
MySpace page was so good. She was so cute. It was like very like minimalist. Like eventually you couldn't even see my top eight. It was a mystery to
Right.
everyone. I hid my music player too, so I was like
Oh yeah.
gatekeeping queen when I was like 13 years old apparently. But not since. Flirted with
Yeah, I
a
mean,
six-figure
like, did you have
salary.
any foundational idea of like either HTML or CSS or JavaScript? Did you understand even like folder structure and like how, things connect together inside of a project like this? Or was that kind of foreign to you?
So HTML and CSS, yes, like I can read, I can read those code bases. JavaScript, much less so. Like I can,
Yeah.
I can pick it up, and I've tried
Yeah.
learning here and there, but it's always felt very overwhelming to me. Like coding was kind of has always been like
Yeah.
my like final like infinity stone. You know what I mean? Of like, damn, like I want to learn so
Yeah.
bad, and I've like started and psyched myself out like a few times. It's one of like the few things that I
Yeah.
haven't like been able to like hold myself to and like see all the way through. Like I'm no stranger to like throwing myself into like intimidating learning environments and figuring it
Yeah.
out. But something about coding, like
Yeah.
even front end, that really isn't that challenge. Like anyone can learn it, but it was just
Yeah.
always so intimidating to me. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I would absolutely consider myself like a novice at best, and not someone who
Right.
was comfortable in those spaces at all. Again, like just even like seeing a terminal or an IDE would like, yeah,
Right.
the millennial leaving my body. Suddenly I'm a boomer who doesn't know how to use computers, and I'm like super intimidated. And that's what it was. Folder structures, like project directories. Like I learned that like in conversation with Cursor of like, would ask me like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, like I need to like retrieve, like fetch these assets in your project directory. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a folder. I guess I just create a folder in the project directory question mark and put these, I don't know, tarot card images in there. And
Yeah.
that's what it was. It'd be like, yeah, do that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool. So I guess women in STEM, hell yeah. I guess I'm doing it. Like it was kind of like that. It's like, oh shit, like I'm, the plane is already in the air, but I'm,
Give this lady a scholarship. That's
I'm
amazing.
saying, yeah. So that's kind of what it's like, So like it wasn't something that I approached like with full confidence at all. I mean, quite the contrary. Like I leaned heavily on, my friend Maxim, for example, who is more comfortable in like coding environments, and he was like a big inspiration who kind of like pushed me of like, hey, no, like you can do this. Anyone can learn this. You
Right.
love learning. Just do it, push past the discomfort. Like I'm here to help if
Yeah.
you need, but like you'll need less help than you think. Like just do it, get over that like beginning hurdle and just try. And once you get into like the groove of it, once you start seeing any output at all, then it's like, the momentum just builds and it's easy to keep going. The beginnings are really intimidating. At least it was for me, when like you just had nothing
Yeah.
and it was kind of like a blank canvas, and like just setting up your cursor environment, for example, that part was definitely really scary. But once you start seeing it come together, then you're like, oh, okay, wait, like this is a conversation. Like I'm, prompting, but like shaping. the direction and the experience, and like it's real, you can deploy it on your own. Like this was like a live site from the start. I had a live server that was like showing like the updates so I could check like the functionality and how it was being built and any errors or mistakes. And that's just, God, it's just incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, first of all, I think you really captured brilliantly kind of the stress and anxiety people feel entering into Cursor for the first time and just being
Hmm.
like, there is a blank page here and it looks like code is supposed to go there. And like there's this, blinking cursor, at me and
Hmm.
like where do I begin?
Yeah.
And then it starts writing code and you're like, oh my God, first of all, that's amazing. And then second of all, what the heck did it just do? And then you're like,
Hmm.
what did you just do?
Yeah. What was
And then
that?
it explains to you. And then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Like
you did that.
maybe I can do this. And I think that step by step, like, you start to achieve and achieve and achieve. And like
Hmm.
those moments where you finally get it up and running, you're like, it's working. Like,
It's
it's a
happening.
miracle.
It
Uh,
is. And like I won't
is
I won't
super
lie.
cool.
It's so cool, and it's so powerful, but there are so like this isn't the first time I've played around with Cursor. I did actually, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Damn. I'll see if I can hold on. I'll see if I can find it for us. But I played around with it in, hold on. This is funny. Sorry, I just want us to like see this.
Yeah, take your
This is
time.
kind of
It's all
cool.
good.
Uh, I created this little Claude. It was actually, yeah, for like, yeah, like Anthropic, like they were hiring for like a product designer. I mean, like
Hmm.
reach for the stars, right? But it was like a little
Yeah.
Claude like bot. And this was like before Claude's redesign. So like it looked like kind of yeah, like kind of similar. So I just created this little like Claude chatbot basically that's like a cover letter. And this took me like a million hours. And 99% of that time was debugging. And like
Yeah.
Cursor would just like, it's so simple, but like just like these very simple like animations, like,
Hmm.
the typing animation or just like, yeah, the UI surprisingly. And that still rang true for like this project as well.
Yeah.
It's the most simple details that surprisingly are often hardest for the system to
Yeah.
like understand and implement on like first try. And however many months ago, 8 months ago, this was like November of 2024
Yeah.
that I was doing this. It was so hard and it did discourage me from like touching
Yeah.
the tool again, where I was just like, this is just so difficult. Like this took forever. It was so frustrating. Like I would like make hours of progress and then Claude would make a mistake and like all of my work would be destroyed. And even then, there was no way to like restore it. Right. And I'd be like, oh my God, no,
Right.
no, 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 bring it back, bring it
Right.
back. And like it wouldn't be able to do that. So when I was talking to Maxim before starting this project, and I was like, man, like I just am not ready to be hurt again.
Yeah.
Like that was just like so
Yeah.
emotionally like devastating for me. And he's like, no, 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 like it's changed so much. Like
Yeah.
these systems
Yeah.
get better
It's
by
gotten a
the
lot
day,
better. Yeah.
and that's a thing. It's like however great it is today, it's going to be 10 times better literally tomorrow. And he's just like, just try it. It's going to be
Yeah.
completely different. And, those like 8 months or whatever, it's like 10 years in AI time. And it was a completely different experience. So now Cursor, like, there was only like 2 or 3 times where I like, it kind of bugged out on me where like I lost a lot of functionality and things broke in a really serious way where I was like, oh no, I, like lost some versioning of my work, but they have the restore function now. It's like, oh, restore to previous checkpoint. That helped
Hmm.
restore like one moment. There was another moment where I learned the hard way why you should be deploying to GitHub often to like maintain.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, I was waiting for like, okay, like what's going to be like one of the big lessons for this project. That was one of them where it was
Oh
like
yeah.
the only time that like Cursor really did like, just hallucinate and like so days worth of work was just like destroyed in a prompt and like the restore
Yeah.
function like wasn't working and I just hadn't deployed to GitHub yet. And if I had,
Yep.
it
It
would
would
have
have been
saved me,
preserved.
like a few more days. So I was like, damn, that's why you
Yeah.
do that. And I remember the
Yeah.
beginning of the project, I was asking Max, I was like, why do you need to do this again? GitHub is also so scary for me. I was
So
terrified. I was
scary.
like, oh God,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Totally
know.
scary.
Like the
Still
UI,
scary.
it's like, it's still scary. I'm like, oh my God, I don't belong here. And he's like, no, it's going to be okay. This is why you deploy to GitHub, versioning, whatever.
Yep.
And I just forgot or like, was too scared to like actually do it. I'm like, okay, that's going to be my final step in this project. I'm like going to do the GitHub thing,
Yeah. It's like,
take a
no, no,
few
no.
deep breaths,
First step.
mistakes, first step. So things you learn, so like, again, like this technology, like isn't perfect. Like, I don't know if we can like
Yep.
expect perfection ever. That's also not realistic. At the end of the day, it is like a tool like any other, right? But it's so much more approachable today than it even was, again, a few months ago. And even
Yeah.
more so, it'll be, a few months from now. But like, even as with its current state as a starting point, like people can do it. Normie approved. Like you can,
Yeah.
just explore, have an idea in your head. I think that that helps a lot to start with like a completely blank canvas. Like I'm not sure how effective or smooth that would be, but like having some sort of idea of like what you want to create. Like I knew I wanted to create some sort of like vintage retro, like OS personal portfolio project, right? It didn't even start with Rio as like a blueprint. It was actually Pool Suite, which is like my favorite internet, company ever. It's like, oh, okay, that like kind of like vacation-y, like 70s retro, like, kitschy aesthetic. It kind of started as that. And then as soon as I got there, I was like, nah, let's keep it traditional, like Windows 95 maybe. So, just having something though, because like even in the very first prompt, I'm like, just give me like a canvas. Like here's a screenshot of
Hmm.
like Pool Suite FM, like
Yeah.
just like their landing page. I want to create some sort of OS for like a design portfolio. Can you like, yeah, let's start there. My prompting
Yeah.
still isn't like as sophisticated and like, you know, um, intentional, like as it can be. But even that, like on first output, was pretty good. And again, like that just like
Yeah.
inspired more ideas of like, oh, okay, I see this vision. Let me push it a little bit. Maybe let's go in this direction instead. I see what you put here as placeholders. Actually, that's like not bad. Like they had a little, because it was like, vacation inspired. One of the icons on the desktop was vacation. And
Hmm.
when you opened it, it was like a little like vacation status of like, oh, like out of office, if you want to reach me, whatever. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like an away message. What if I had like a little
Yeah.
chat experience with like an AIM, AOL Instant Messenger away message instead? Like that's a little more, personal to me
Yeah.
and like my like experience of like, then that's how I came with the idea and the vision of like, oh, okay, this is just going to be a love letter for like the
Yeah.
internet experiences that shaped me and that like I
Yeah.
hold dear and that like made me fall in love with like this space and that are reflective of like, just like my unserious personality and stuff, etc. So again, Cursor, Claude, these tools were very much like creative partners in that generation process than pilots.
Yeah. And like, I guess like now that you've, as we said, jumped off the cliff and into the water, you know, what would you say to designers who are at this moment where they are thinking of jumping in and have a lot of apprehension about the future? Um, what do you say to them? What will inspire them to take these next steps?
Mm. So I think reframing it from, this anxiety and sense of obligation, right? Which I'll admit, like even as someone like I'm a continuous learner, I'm very growth oriented, growth mindset for life. But even I was kind of like, God damn it, like another thing. And it's just like now I have to be like a vibe coder too, and it's just too much. Like, how much can one person do? Like I was a little reactionary to that myself,
Yeah.
right? With full transparency, but reframing that sense of like obligation of like, okay, now it's just another thing I have to learn and I have to be the best at this, whatever, to actually this can be a playground like anything else. You know what I mean? And like that's generally how I feel about every new tool that comes up, every new thing there is to learn and design. Like that's what I enjoy about the continuous like education of it, of like, oh, you can just play though. So it doesn't need to be like, okay, I need to launch, you know, a, like an app store chart topping app tomorrow with like this technology. Like maybe you can just create like a fun, nostalgic little personal project that's like for you, like this project really was for me. Like genuinely, I wasn't expecting the reception and attention that it got, like industry and like design folks noticing it. Like it really was just like my own little personal thing. And I think that that's, that changed everything for me of like, okay, like this can be a joy to learn just even as a personal pursuit. And then you'll get the, professional benefits of it for free. Like
Right.
that
Right.
just happens anyways. But like maybe if you have
Yeah.
like, I think I also started like wanting to like play around with cursor. Like I was thinking like an app world because like I am an app
Hmm.
girly. Like I designed apps
Yeah.
primarily. So like in this way, yeah, I guess this is like one of like the first websites I've
Yeah.
designed. And like, apps are not to say more complex, but there's just a little, it's more involved.
Yeah.
You're thinking of like architecture in like a different way. And that's why I kind of gave myself like the constraints of like, wait, what if it were like early internet and like, intentionally unrefined and kind
Right.
of like, gritty in that way. So I like released myself from like, okay, I needs to be like, has to have this app needs to have all the growth mechanics and like I'm a product designer. It needs to be perfect. What's the onboarding going to be like? Like that was already like too big and scary and,
Yeah.
formal. Like start small, scrappy, silly, maybe a landing page or like, a
Hmm.
small, simple like web app, like you don't
Yeah.
need to like, be like the vibe coder of the generation, like, the first project you put out, but just familiarizing yourself like with the tool, with the technology is actually just fun,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
important, and like vital to know as well, but also
Yeah.
thankfully so much fun. So like you really get a lot out of it. It doesn't need to be like an obligation or like come from a place of pressure like I was putting on it, for example.
And on that note and theme, what do you think this means for the next generation of designers? Do they need to become coders now?
I mean, it's yeah, like the age old question, right? I think it's less like, should designers code and like do they need to, and more so like I think it would be foolish not to be curious about it. Like I find it, I think it would be very challenging to like enter the industry today, or even honestly like stay relevant in the industry without at least like the curiosity to like explore these tools. I understand the reaction. I understand like the existential and philosophical tension that some folks might have, but I think the reality is that like eh, in a lot of ways, like it or not, I do think it's kind of like a one-way door that has been opened, and it's like
Hmm.
you can have your personal qualms against it, like capitalism, for example. It's like, do I love it? No. Would it be my first choice? Probably not. But it's like, okay, like we exist in a society. This is, the system that we're operating in. And if you want or need to participate in it, how do you adapt? Like, how do you survive
Right.
in that environment? And I think this is one of those things, right? So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that, for designers like starting out, like this should just be like a native part of the creation process. So like, it's just more that you have to learn and have to know. I don't think it's necessarily makes it harder or easier to, enter the industry or to like learn these skills. But I think like beyond, being like a traditionalist designer with like those foundational tools and, skills and competencies, you also need to like be able to make it real. And like you can do
Yeah.
that today, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
So like, should you have to do you need to? I mean, I think it would be foolish not to. And I also think that it would be a very curious thing to be a designer in today's landscape and not at least have the curiosity and the interest to explore that. I think that
Yeah.
the people who will be successful in this world are the people who, again, are like innately curious to their core and are like open to playing around with these new tools just to see where it can take them, of like, oh, you have like motion
Yeah.
design, like AI products now, like Jitter, or like,
Yeah.
After Effects. Man, I'm fighting for my life in After Effects. Like I've tried, like your girl is not the one, like I can still learn, but it's
Yeah.
like, damn, okay, like what if something like Jitter, I haven't used it yet. What if it could help me,
Yeah.
fill in those gaps? Maybe it's not perfect, but maybe it could be a proof of concept. Maybe I can be part of a team that, needs to see
Right.
like animations in a prototype like more easily and like, suddenly what was like a barrier before is a little more accessible now. And that at the end of the day is like what we do as designers, as product designers, at least, right? Like my
Yeah.
job is to like create something not only inspiring, but that's real and that can come to life. And if we can accelerate that process, and in a world where maybe even like designers are like the means of production for that, of not only like creating it but also executing, I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, we're still going to need our engineers. That's not to say that engineers will not exist. Like, I think you still need that
Yeah.
human curation and expertise, right, to QA and like triage. Just the
Yeah.
same that like Cursor couldn't have created this project on its own. Like, it needed me, my taste, my direction, my orienting, my like not just prompting either. Like, I had like design, like I was embedding like designs and my taste and uh
Yeah.
the details and intention within that. So like all of the human aspects are still so important, but the tools enabling those experiences are changing. And I do think that folks who don't get on board with it will be left behind. I do think that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your perspective, your amazing experience, encouraging really, I think a lot of people who are at this pivotal stage in their career to kind of take that leap. I just wanted to kind of end with, where can people find you? Where can they follow along with your journey? Where's the best place?
Yeah, the best place. I'm still active on Twitter. It's Twitter forever. Amy Lima Bean there, and LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn girly. I be posting there, just like sharing my work creation process. I will be sharing more about like just the workflow of this project. Like, I would love to get more designers into this space, more designers building. Any way I can be a bridge for that, like I plan on sharing that there and on Twitter. So I think those are the two best places. And Lima Bean OS. I'll be updating it,
Yeah.
hanging out there,
So
new experiences.
yeah, and it's amylimabean.com is actually the URL just for the audience if you guys want to check it out on your own. Um, Amazing. That's fantastic, Amy. Before we go, I'm going to plug one thing that we're going to be doing that you might be interested in. And I think our audience will be too. So we're actually going to be hosting a Vibeathon. And this is going to be for people who, like Amy, were curious about really learning how to leverage generative AI in a multitude of different ways to create things. So what's cool about the Vibeathon, it's open to a lot of different categories. So if you want to vibe code an OS, you can do that here. If you want to build an app, a website, a service, a tool, maybe you want to make an AI film, AI music, or a AI marketing operation or automation. Any of those things can be created for the Vibeathon. We're going to have some amazing partners and amazing prizes that we've actually already, got on board to work with on this. So that's going to be coming up in the next month or so. Keep an eye out for it. But Amy, I just want to say thank you so much again for being with us today. You're inspiring a lot of people with this talk. And I think, as always, you have over the past few years. So excited to meet you. And thanks again for spending time with us.
Thank you so much, my friend. The feeling is so mutual. Thank you for all that you do for creating this space, the thoughtful questions, conversation. So happy to be here. Never been a more fun time to be a designer. This is so cool.
Couldn't agree more. Have a great rest of your day, Amy. Thank you.
You too, friend. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, built in public, no mask, no frontin', turn nothing to something. Now everybody want in.